Hey everybody, it's Nick from Android Headlines, and this is the Huawei Mate 8. So Huawei had a pretty huge year in 2015 with more growth than ever before, claiming the #3 spot worldwide as far as smartphone manufacturers go. Last year they went full metal with their phones, and this year they're really showing their position with the all-metal Honor 5X that only costs $200, and now we've got the even nicer Huawei Mate 8 that's a little bit more expensive than that Honor 5X is. The Mate 8 was originally launched in China at the end of November and is now rolling out worldwide. Huawei made its official international unveiling at CES about 2 weeks ago. Now we're here to bring you the full review of this phone. So starting off, we're going to talk about the build quality. You might be surprised by just looking at the phone that this is actually a 6-inch screen. The build quality is not just excellent, it's also incredibly sleek and slim given the fact that the screen is a pretty massive 6 inches. If you've ever used a 5.5-inch phone before, you'll note that this is probably smaller than a lot of other 5.5-inch phones out there, yet the screen is a half an inch bigger. That's because the bezels are nearly non-existent, and the lack of hardware buttons and front-facing speakers allow Huawei to keep the screen large and the body pretty small. It's actually going to be shorter than the Nexus 6P, which features a 5.7-inch screen. It's shorter by about 2 millimeters, but on the other hand, it is a little bit wider by 2 millimeters, so it's more or less the same size as a 6P. It really feels fantastic in the hand, and it absolutely does not feel like a 6-inch device at all. Build quality is out of this world good. It is all metal like I said before, and it just feels really solid. Unlike a lot of other metal devices, this one isn't slippery for whatever reason, especially in the cold, which is actually rather surprising to me given the fact that the 6P is incredibly slippery, especially in the cold. On the right side, you're going to find the volume rocker and power button, but these are situated a little bit too high for my liking. They're very awkward to use, especially when on a phone call, and it doesn't seem to matter if you're using it on your left or right hand. It's still awkward, and it's just a little bit too high up on this larger body to be comfortable. On the left side, you're going to find a dual SIM tray. That's also going to double as a micro SD card slot for that second SIM card in there. That means you don't have to worry too much about the internal storage amount you get on this phone, since that micro SD card is probably going to be pretty cheap at this point. Moving on to the front, like I said with the bezels earlier, they're almost non-existent, and this screen is going to be an IPS Neo LCD. However, it's only a 1080p display instead of a Quad HD display like a lot of other flagship phones have. This is a little strange in 2016 given that we've had Quad HD screens for about a year and a half now, and this may or may not be a disappointment. But on the bright side, it keeps processing down and battery life up, even though it won't be as razor sharp as those Quad HD screens. You're probably not going to notice this very much unless you're using the phone for VR purposes, in which case that extra bump in resolution is going to make a pretty significant difference. As far as LCDs go, this is a pretty darn good one, although it doesn't really have any surprises, so you're looking at pretty decent black levels, very accurate colors, it's nice and bright, you're not going to have any problem seeing this outside, and it's not oversaturated. The refresh rate could be a little bit better, and the viewing angles are quite varied, where some angles are superb, while others exhibit black level and color shifting if you're looking at it from the bottom edge. Since it's made out of metal, the 185-gram weight actually feels really quality instead of heavy. Inside is Huawei's own in-house processor, that's the brand new Kirin 950, and it's absolutely the fastest processing package you're going to find on any phone right now, until that Snapdragon 820 is more widely available. This one smashes the Snapdragon 810 in performance, in both benchmarks and real-world performance, and it runs cooler, all while consuming less power. So you're looking at a better processor as far as performance goes. In fact, that 4,000 mAh battery inside will easily last you 2 days, and over the last week I found myself charging it only 3 times in the entire week, even though this was the only phone I used all week. That's beyond unheard of in flagship levels, and it's something that people could only dream of up until now. This absolutely jaw-dropping performance and battery life make a killer combination that simply can't be ignored. There's a number of color combinations here, but there are actually 2 main models. So you're looking at a 32 gig of internal storage with 3 gigabytes of RAM, that's going to be for $600, and there's also a 64 gig of internal storage with 4 gigabytes of RAM for $700. You're also going to find 120 gig internal storage with 4 gigs of RAM for around $800, but there's a micro SD card slot here, so this doesn't really make much sense as far as spending the extra $100 to get that storage, given how cheap micro SD cards are. Overall, multitasking performance is good, but only once you start tweaking it. By default, almost every app closes as soon as the screen is off, which is a way to save battery by keeping apps from running in the background, but it seems like a pretty lazy way to do it overall. This basically removes the purpose of getting the larger RAM version if you never make any of the tweaks, and on top of that causes some serious problems with notifications. I constantly missed messages and emails because apps would close after the screen went off, even though I'd added them to the whitelist of keeping the apps running. This software experience is powered by the brand new Emotion UI 4.0, which is built upon Android 6.0 Marshmallow, so you're looking at a pretty fresh version of Android as well as brand new version of Huawei's UI. You'd never know this is Marshmallow though, as it looks visually identical to Emotion UI 3 found on Huawei devices in the last year or so. When the phone first launched, it was missing quite a few Android 6.0 Marshmallow exclusive features, like Google Now on Tap and some other things, but thankfully some of these have been slowly added in through updates over the past couple of weeks. In fact, Google Now on Tap was just added this week in the most recent update. However, there are still quite a few things missing from this that are in other builds of Android 6.0 Marshmallow. Doze seems to be non-existent, replaced of course by that weird app closing thing mentioned before. And dynamic sharing is gone as well, so no quick contact sharing, and still an old looking grid of 6 app icons, instead of the larger vertical scrolling column and dynamic entries like we saw on stock Marshmallow. Notifications are a mixed bag, as there's no lock screen notifications when security is enabled, making the lock screen basically useless as anything more than a keyguard. Heads-up notifications look and act more like iOS than Android and are actually pushed back up rather than swiped away, so it's a little bit jarring getting used to this, where most of the UI is card-based and you swipe left or right to get rid of things. Plus they take away around 10% or so of the top of your screen, so they're a little more annoying than the normal heads-up notifications would be. Thankfully these can be controlled per app, so if you have nuisance apps that are constantly bothering you with these notifications, you can just turn them off and leave them only on the status bar or something like that. Overall, the look and feel of Emotion UI 4 is nearly identical to version 3, with a few tweaks here and there, namely the tinted status bar, although that one looks more like it came out of KitKat than Marshmallow, as well as plenty of iOS-looking menus and screens all over the place. Check out our written review for more detailed breakdown of the UI itself and some of the features that you're going to find on the phone. Moving to the back, the fingerprint scanner is insanely fast. It's absolutely the fastest I've ever seen on any phone, Android or not, and is literally fractions of a second from pressing it to unlocking. It looks and is placed exactly like you found in the Nexus 6P, although the gestures from the Mate S are not going to be here. Moving to the bottom of the device, it looks like stereo speakers, but it's actually only the right grill that's a speaker. The speaker is actually really loud, clear, and has some bass, which feels really good in that metal chassis. The left side is actually a pair of microphones that work in tandem with the one up top, delivering true directional audio recording capabilities, which works especially well in the video mode of the camera. That camera is going to be a 16 megapixel, 1 by 2.8 inch sensor. That's going to be the Sony Exmor IMX298. The actual camera interface is no different from before, and it looks straight out of iOS. And actually it doesn't feature auto HDR or some of those advanced features that we've come to know and love on some other Android phones. Thankfully, taking the shots is absolutely instantaneous, and you're not going to have to worry about missing the action because this one has a really quick shutter. Unfortunately though, not being able to quickly record or take pictures without switching a mode is a disadvantage, and mode switching is actually pretty slow at about a second per mode or so. Overall, the interface needs some serious work and is definitely not the most optimal interface I've ever used. Picture quality itself ranges from good to mediocre, and honestly wasn't at all what I was expecting from this sensor. Pictures have less detail than they should thanks to the overly aggressive denoise filter, which attempts to take out every grain of noise from the shot but ends up making things look extra soft as a result. Low light definitely suffers harder, although it's not nearly Galaxy S5 garbage levels of quality here. Video mode is better, although you're restricted to 1080p 60 frames a second as the highest quality mode available. There is no 4K recording at all here, and the slow motion is only down to 120 FPS at 720p resolution. Like I said before though, thankfully that directional audio is incredible, and it really does sound like you're in the room when you're playing the video back. It's probably better audio than I've heard from pretty much any other smartphone that I've used. Overall, this is a pretty great phone, and certainly a way better showing from Huawei than the pretty terrible Mate S that we reviewed not too long ago. It's tough to recommend this one though over the Huawei built Nexus 6P if you want to stick with Huawei phones, which is just a superior phone in the camera, speaker, and display departments. Software will be entirely up to you, and while Emotion UI 4 is fast, it has some serious issues with multitasking and notification delivery, although it's very feature rich, so if you are looking for some of these advanced features like the data filtering and a lot of the other ones that we laid out in the written review, it could be something that would entice you towards this phone rather than that one. That micro SD card slot is definitely something a lot of users want, but it could have been a lot more useful if this one had 4K video recording, and there are just some other things that make it tough to recommend spending at least $100 more than the 6P. Be your own judge of course, but we hope we've helped you make an informed decision. Be sure to check out that full written review again to explore every nook and cranny of the phone, and don't forget to check out our other content here on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Google+, you name it, we're there. Thanks for watching. Till next time.